What up? What up? What up?
What up, Floyd?
I like that. WHADDUP.
What up? What up?
But I also used to watch
What
the
up
show
is
Martin.
the holidays are here. We're in.
What up? We're in it. We're in the thick of it.
I love the holidays.
What do you love the most?
The food. There's food everywhere. There's this food you shouldn't be eating, but it's amazing. And I get to eat pumpkin pie.
Oh no!
Whenever I want. Oh yeah, that's the best.
No,
I could eat pumpkin pie for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Not pumpkin. You can't do sweet potato
268 days a year.
200.
Just the same amount of days of sunshine in Yuma, Arizona.
Pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin pie.
I can't do pumpkin pie. I can do sweet potato pie.
Well, I knew that.
But embrace the awkwardness.
That's right.
Embrace the awkwardness. Well, look, if you're just now tuning in, whether you're Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're listening to us
MySpace,
at, man, MySpace,
8-track or cassette.
Do not find me on MySpace.
Memorex.
I'm not responsible for what may or may not still be
right.
on the interweb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But welcome to On Map on Mission, man. We're just going to dive right in and just talk about embracing the awkward. But before we even get ready to do that, I guess we need to introduce ourselves at this point?
Well, you're Floyd Stubblefield.
I'm Floyd Stubblefield. This is the Scott Rogers.
With a D in the name.
Scott Rogers.
Cousin of anybody else who has a D in their name.
I don't know. Heir, first of his name.
I'm not
just go Game of Thrones with it. Heir of his name.
Yes.
Lord of his household. No, Jesus is Lord. But I want you to watch this. Speaking of embracing, I want you to watch this video.
So we're going to tee this all up with this video.
Okay.
All right. All right, let's see.
Then have shifted. Am I making sense? Lift your hands and say, Lord, thank you for the spirit of prayer. I smell it too. Amen. I know you smell it. Ooh, that thing's strong. Ooh, somebody let one go in here.
Oh, no.
Ooh, somebody got a major breakthrough. I mean, that thing's strong. I saw everybody fan. I said, I smell it too. I'm preaching, but that thing is strong. Whoever that is, something up in there died. I mean, because it didn't just stay in a certain place. That thing moved over the face of the waters.
He's going to preach on it.
That thing lingered. I was trying to preach through it. But that thing would not release.
Whoever it was got a major breakthrough.
That is hilarious.
Dude, it's like 3 minutes of him going on in that. But, I mean, what better way to embrace the awkward?
That's great.
We want to dust crop during worship or...
I mean, okay, so... awkwardness is everywhere. If you go outside of the house, I mean, you're gonna have to embrace some awkwardness here and there.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So like there's church awkward.
Yep.
In so many ways, there's grocery store awkward. There's restaurant awkward. There's school work awkward. Like
all the time.
What's an awkward moment that comes to mind for you that you've had to navigate?
I've had to do a lot. I fell walking on stage, like walking up to preach. Before that was awkward. I think the most recent one though.
You should just use it as an illustration. We've all fallen short.
We've all fallen short on the path.
But the Lord picks you up.
But the Lord picked me up. Get back up again. We fall down, but we get up. That's what. That's a song. You have to. Anywho, the most recent awkward one was I was having a bad day, and it was like a Tuesday, which is my least favorite day of the week.
Oh, interesting.
I think I've told you that before. Yeah, no. Have I?
No.
So,
no.
Sundays, people love Sundays because they're, Sunday, church day, yay. Mondays are motivational. Some people just like, let's start this week right. Let's
Fresh
go.
week. Let's build something.
Let's go.
That's me.
Wednesdays are hump day. Everybody loves hump day. Thursdays are Friday Eve. Fridays, turn up TGIF. Thank God it is Friday. Who does not love a Saturday? But if something terrible happens on a Tuesday, you still have the rest of the week to go.
Yeah.
So Tuesdays are my least favorite days of the week.
In sight.
And it used to be Popeyes used to do 2 for $99 on Tuesdays, so I loved them. But since they took away that 2 for $99, 2 pieces of chicken for 99 cents, I don't like it no more.
Times have changed.
Times have changed. But
it's a new normal.
It was a Tuesday. I'm at HEB getting groceries, and I'm having just a bad day. My kid, baby Floyd's having a temper tantrum, like in the middle of the grocery store. So, every parent in the store is silently judging you.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm trying to hold restraint because I'm a firm believer, spare the rod, spoil the child.
Okay.
I'm about to snatch him up on checkout aisle 8. And I had on a guy looks at me and he says, "Hey, I need some of that." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Your shirt, I need that." I was like, "Huh?" And the kid's hollering and they're scanning groceries. Yeah. And I had on a shirt that says free prayer.
Oh, okay.
No, seriously, just ask.
Yeah.
And he was like, "No, I want you to pray for me
great.
right now." And I'm like, could you not pick a more awkward moment to ask for prayer? Like that was the most, the first top of mind, most recent awkward moment that happened. That was like a couple weeks ago. But.
So that's a good one because I had somewhat of a similar experience. I was my son and I were at a San Francisco 49ers football game. Okay. In Santa Clara. It was the Niners against the Seahawks.
Okay.
And it was like maybe the second year the new stadium was opened or something, just a few years ago. And I had on a sweatshirt, a hoodie, because you're in San Francisco and it's like October, November. It's
year round.
It can get pretty cold at times. It said, "I love my church." And so that just limits how much frustration you can project, right?
Yeah,
like you're accountable.
Oh,
at least that's why I don't have bumper stickers on my cars. I don't have Jesus bumper stickers on my car.
No KSBJ sticker on the back?
No God listens, nothing, because I don't want to be a bad representation. That brand ambassador you talked about a long time ago. So we're at this Niners game, and there's this concessions. They were like these sausages with the peppers and the onions and the fresh bun, the steam, and you're just like, oh, this is amazing. It's only like $14 for a little sandwich, and so we go out at the end of near the end of the second quarter. We stand in line, and it's so slow. Well, it's halftime. We're good. And it's so slow, and I'm starting to get all frustrated. I don't hold it very well in the sense of I kind of it starts to bubble up out of me, and I get bitey and stuff. Well, we're midway through the third quarter.
Oh man!
When we finally get up to the counter or the thing, literally no exaggeration. We are the next people up. We walk up, and the person there says, "Sir, I'm sorry. We just ran out."
Oh.
And I was so mad. And I just wanted to say something, but my son's standing there and I got the hoodie on. I love my church. And I had to hold it in. And it was so hard, but it was so awkward because I was just like, let's go. And so the t-shirt, that's just a long story to remind me of wearing the apparel.
Bought the shirt, literally. Been bought the shirt. Well, I guess outside of what's making a moment awkward, how do you embrace? I'll move on because for you, you were a brand ambassador that day.
Yeah.
I love my church. So you're either inviting people to church unknowingly or you tell them, I do not want to go to his church at all.
Yeah, and it really wasn't about church because our church was 2 hours away.
No one's going to come anyway.
There was this conviction about, hey, if the word church is on my shirt, there is kind of a dotted line, if not direct line to Jesus.
Yeah.
So, that was the thought.
How do you lean into
when you think about what makes something awkward?
Yeah.
That wasn't as much awkward about awkwardness. It was probably more about frustration and disappointment. But when I think about what makes something awkward, it's I feel this sense of embarrassment.
Shame. Yeah, for sure.
Like I'm projecting my insecurity is now being illuminated.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to think of me in a way that I don't want. It's a lot of awkwardness for me comes from insecurity and embarrassment, maybe a little bit of shame.
Yeah. When people call you out on stuff, for me, that makes me awkward, but definitely shame.
Yeah.
And I always say, just double down on it.
Yeah. So what do you do? So how do you lean into it? How do you walk through it?
I double down on it. It takes a lot for a moment to be awkward for me. Right. Outside of falling, going up to preach, I've been heckled mid-sermon, like by students, because kids are brutal. They are straight up brutal. And if you misquote text in scripture anywhere, it's awkward and it's hard to just pull up, but you just got to double down. I did before doing student ministry, I was at a church and I call it multi-generational ministry because they just had all of them. It was no next gen, no students, no fuel, no preschool. No, it was just from, if you need a babysitter, that's what it is. Yeah. But we did camp and I had a camp. The camp theme was something about Genesis and God's creation. And I told the kids to open and read to a certain scripture. And then after I had the kids read, I realized that it was the wrong scripture. And I actually had them read, and they were naked and unashamed in Genesis
2:25.
And so that's all the kids took. Yeah. Like the whole camp, they thought it was comical, but you have to double down on it. Yeah. Like, so yeah, you can kind of say like, oh man, this is guys, like own it. I think that's probably the easiest or the hardest part is owning the awkwardness.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know what else to do besides own it, put a name to it.
Just go with it.
Just go with it.
Because if I try to avoid it or deflect it or hide it, or hope no one sees it or you know what I mean, it actually just makes it look worse. But if you own it, to me, it's like, man, I just got to be confident in who I am, who God's made me to be. It's all good. We're all human. Let's just step into it and keep moving.
But I think even that too, one thing that's awkward is conflict too.
Yep.
Like conflict is awkward. Interrelational rift is super awkward. And I think that's even harder to navigate than like an individual awkward moment because in a sense it's shared awkwardness. It's shared uncomfortability, it's shared shame, especially if you've been caught in something, right? And I think that's what's it's an old preacher, he used to say the devil uses shame to keep you where you are. And I think that's what it is. It's the shame, but then you drag the best disinfectant is sunlight. So like when you drag it out into the light and say what it is, I think that helps. That helps navigate almost any awkward situation. It's having a conversation and being able to say like, look, when you did this, it made this happen. Like, dude, I'm pretty confident there are times where I've upset you. Like, no, like Scott, like I'm pretty confident.
Upset me?
There's times where I've upset you.
Okay. I can't think of any, but I'll try.
I try to be pretty great, but it's a hard job. Somebody has to do it. But even navigating that, it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's like, I shouldn't have said this, or I said this and I should have thought about doing this. Or you challenged it. So we did I don't know if you remember this. We did a DS1 together.
Okay.
And
Which is like a little training conference.
It's a training conference for disciple making. And we had the takeaway challenge where you're supposed to affirm someone.
I remember.
You're supposed to challenge someone.
And I talked to you about your humor, your natural sense of humor. And
that was awkward because it was a room full of people.
Yep. And I said, it was affirmation.
Yeah.
And really acknowledging you have a great gift of connection and humor. And then I think I encouraged you to that you also have great leadership gifts in you, and to try not to force the humor in when you needed to just lead. Right? It was that kind of thing.
Don't allow humor to be your identity.
Yeah, and there was a group of about 12 people there. We all did it though. So it wasn't just calling you out. It was more of a let's do this.
It was a moment, but it was weird because you're in a room with 12 people.
Sure.
And then you have to face each other. And I think the awkwardness came when it's like, okay, what did you hear him say?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. Don't allow humor to be your
But aren't we better when we lean into it? Like we lean into it rightly, not like react with anger or trying to, you know what I mean? But it was like, yeah, let's just step into this and just absorb it and walk through it like an adult, and you know what I mean?
Hands down. Can you think of a time for you when you've had to just lean into the awkwardness? Like, I can come up stories that it can be from, like for me, it was when I asked my wife's hand in marriage and my father-in-law said no.
Yeah.
How do you pull up from that?
Right.
It's like, that's a conflict. Like, I don't even know.
Well, I've had several awkward situations of my own doing, my own buffoonery. And so I kind of create my own awkwardness, and I'm actually trying to intentionally reduce how often that happens from saying the wrong thing or doing, and really the intent is more just to have fun.
Yeah.
So my personality is part of having fun is verbalizing something, and noticing something, or having fun with something. And I've learned over time that what's funny in my head doesn't always translate to funny around. And so that's
so much funnier up here.
That's when it's awkward for me, where I'm like, hey, blah, 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 blah. And then a few people are looking at me like, you know, and then I'm like, oh, awkward. I thought it was funny, but sorry. Move on, everybody. But here's another form of awkwardness that I think is probably a little bit more on the serious side. You know, as a pastor, kind of gotten used to talking with people about hard things.
Yeah, for sure.
And take my wife, for example. She doesn't have to do that. So whenever a situation comes up where maybe it's talking to someone about the death of a loved one, or the challenge of a teenager that's really difficult, or something like that, or maybe it's a moral issue in a marriage, whatever. And I've just learned, like, I want to try to be a source of comfort and strength, not taking God's part, but just doing my part. So I'll bring it up.
Yeah.
And that really makes my wife feel uncomfortable. That's awkward for her. So whenever someone is struggling, like say someone loses a loved one, and she'll share it with me, and my natural response is, well, did you call her and talk to her? And she wants to help, but she's like, it's like, that's awkward.
Yeah.
So that how do you lean into that when actually those hard conversations, trying to be helpful, but it's awkward because some of those topics are not normal for a lot of us.
No. I think I forgot who wrote this book. I think we've talked about the book Crucial Conversations before. It's a great book, like, and they have crucial conversations for leaders. They have crucial conversations for yourself. But I'm telling you, like, that book has helped me navigate how to handle, or when you think of, this is going monies. Talking about money is probably one of the most awkward things for me, because we didn't grow, it wasn't modeled. Like, my parents didn't really talk about money, and it's not a fault to them, but they didn't have the money conversation a lot. If they did have the money conversation, it was usually because we're in the red and something needs to change.
Okay.
Right. So when it comes to my marriage, and even in premarital counseling, that's one of the things they teach is, like, money, talking about money has to be a regular, normalized thing, because it's uncomfortable for some people. Yep. But for me and my marriage, I've had to explain that to my wife, like, hey, babe, look, when we talk about money, you have to just tee it up for me. Like, don't just come to the kitchen table and say, like, hey, look, we're figuring this out in XYZ and these amount of dollars and that amount of dollars. No, just, like, tee it up. And then we can have that conversation.
So she's got to, like, warm you up to the conversation.
Like,
gently pull you in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But that's how I am. Now, when it comes to emotions and feelings, we're the completely opposite. So I'm the person that'll bring up an emotion or the feeling of, when it comes to that. And that's only because of, like, psych training and all these different things, all the alphabets that come after your name that you slowly pick up, like, that's where that comes in. And then pastoral experience, embracing, like you say, embracing death, or embracing sorrow, loss, and embracing the awkwardness of a flesh failure, right? I go to humor. Like, that's my go-to. And I've cracked jokes, and I mean, my go-to humor at a funeral is always right before they drop the body in the ground. I tell the story about the bird. Well, they deposit the body.
They lower
the body into the ground. They deposit it until they make a deposit. My God, but they be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. Amen. But I always crack the joke about the lady whose son barely came to visit her. He bought her this beautiful, expensive pet, and it was a beautiful bird. And this bird could speak like 16 different languages, and he gifted it to her, thought she loved it. And one day he comes to visit, and when he comes to visit, they're eating dinner, and dinner is good. And he's looking around the house, and he's like, Mom, what happened to that bird I sent you? That bird speaks 16 different languages. It can tell you the temperature, the weather. It's almost like a computer, but it's not. It's an actual fleshly bird. So where is it at? And she says, oh, baby, that's what we just ate for dinner. And he's like, huh? What do you mean? You cooked that bird? That bird costs this amount of money. It could do all of these different things. Why would you do that? And she said, well, you think with all the languages that bird could speak, it would have said something. And that's usually the go-to joke at a funeral. It's like, don't leave here. You have a gift. You all speak the same language. So don't leave without just saying something. But that's leaning into the awkward. Like funerals are hard.
Sure.
You know, it's difficult. One of the most difficult things that I've ever had to do was even like preaching my own dad's funeral. Like, dude, that's hard. But you got to lean in.
Yep.
You can't have that conversation. Showing up is 90% of it. Like, you can't have that conversation. If you're not even here to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, if someone's wanting to talk, not everyone is.
Yeah, for
at
sure.
every phase of a grief cycle. But I've always found this the simple question, like a genuine, how are you doing? Just opens up, it gets you right through that awkward starting gate. And then folks can either share if they'd like, or I'd rather not talk about it. And then it's like, I totally understand.
I get it. It's a gift in just being.
Yeah. That's
but
right.
then too, I think it's that gift of like in awkward moments pointing out God's grace. It's like, how have you seen God's grace? One of my supervisors, that's how she starts off every conversation, every meeting that we have. How have you seen God's grace recently, like within the past couple of days? And I don't care how crappy your week's been, just the application of that kind of helps.
Yeah.
Press into the awkward, because you're not just focusing on the awkwardness and the strife, but you're focusing on, you're choosing. Like, you have to choose joy. You're choosing to focus on the good. Like, what is going good in your life? I think Matt did that last Sunday, a couple Sundays ago.
To those who were here, yeah.
To those who were here.
I mean, there's people right now in Paris, France that weren't here. So
yeah, for sure.
So they might not know.
They're listening in the future.
What's going on.
So they can say, like he said, what's good in your life? What's right with you? What's right in your life? Not what's left with your life. What's right in your life, right? So then you're choosing to focus on joy instead of focusing on the awkwardness.
Yeah. Here's another thing too that I would just encourage. Maybe this is a helpful tidbit for folks listening. In addition to that question, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Is when we create an unnecessary awkward moment, just say I'm sorry.
Oh yeah.
Like, because when I create an unnecessary awkward moment and I know it and I try to push through it, like there's times you push through.
Yeah, for sure.
But then there's times where you just call it and say, you know what, I am so sorry. Yeah. That was untimely, inappropriate, insensitive. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm so sorry. And then you're able to, to move on.
Shout out to you for having that. that
Well, I wish I haven't
relational IQ.
I wish I hadn't had to do that before, but I definitely have.
Well, I usually get the hand, foot, mouth disease too. So I put my foot in my mouth more times than that.
Yeah.
So, no, I agree.
That's good, bro. That's good stuff. What's your last thoughts to everybody out there? Like, awkwardness is going to happen. Sometimes we lean in.
It's like off-ramping.
Other times we apologize.
Off-ramping an episode.
Yeah. Okay.
Just transitions.
Awkward
transitions, whether that's in conversation or in life.
Or in podcast
world. Transitions suck.
Just say, man, I love you. We love you all. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
That's it.
Venmo Floyd at Floyd.
I don't even know what my Venmo is, but I'll take it.
Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you next time.